The Stanley Cup playoffs are underway and things are already getting heated and exciting. We've got it covered for you wall to wall next on the NHL Squad.
You are talking puck with the NHL Squad Show, sponsored by Game Time. From the Oilers to the Stars, Golden Knights, and the Panthers, the Rangers, Avalanche, and yes, even the Maple Leafs. The Locked On Podcast Network brings together all its local experts to provide the scoops, breakdowns, and comprehensive looks at all the NHL, with plenty of trash talk to go with it. Don't miss the hard hits and glove-dropping hot takes on the Locked On NHL Squad Show. It's time to drop the puck.
Gil Martin here, and welcome to the NHL Squad. Sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we get you ready for another wild week across the NHL. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders. It is great to have you with us today, and we've got a full panel. It's great to see everybody. We have Erica L Ayala from Locked On Kraken and Kimmel of Locked On Predators, Shukri Wrights from Locked On NHL Game Night, Kyle Kjer of Locked On Ducks, and Haley Taylor-Simon of Locked On Blues. So I'll start off with this. We're in the first round of the playoffs. What's been the biggest surprise of the playoffs so far?
I'm going to go ahead and say Winnipeg up 2-0. And I'm not just saying that because Haley's here.
That's like a low-hanging fruit, and godly. No such thing as Southern hospitality, clearly. Haley, I am sorry on behalf of Anne.
Wow.
It's okay. But I really felt like timing is everything in life, in hockey. And I felt like the Blues just were hitting their stride at the right time. I thought they were going to come in, and I know Winnipeg won the President's Trophy, which is like the poison of the NHL. But I was like, St. Louis is going to come in and smack them. And they've been such good games, and it could have happened. It could have happened, but it didn't yet. Still not counting y'all out, though, Haley. I'm still here for the Blues. But that surprised me.
There is one that came to mind, actually, and this one's probably going to be an all-timer. You see, the Stanley Cup playoffs are the home of things you least expect to happen actually happen. So what I'm alluding to is that I was watching the first Monday night of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I was watching the Sportsnet broadcast. And I am one of those people who are kind of superstitious. Ron McClain, who's the host on the panel, and he predicted in the Montreal-Washington game that, who was going to have the overtime winner? And some guy named Alex Ovechkin, I don't know if we ever heard of the guy before, he predicted that this guy who has never scored an overtime goal in his playoff career, as incredible as it is, he's going to score the overtime winner. And what happens? He scores the overtime winner in game one between Montreal and Washington. And I tweeted, and so many people ripped him a line for it. Thank you for completely jinxing it. Thank you. Most namely Habs fans, but man, the Stanley Cup playoffs in itself, it's just been absolutely more than what we advertised, what we could have hoped for so far.
Anyone else want to weigh in?
So I was a little bit surprised, actually, that the Dallas Stars beat the Avalanche in overtime last night. See,
yeah.
I've been saying this all along. I think the Avalanche are a better team than Dallas, and Dallas has a tendency to choke in the playoffs, and that's just been notorious for years. So watching that game last night, I was like, I really think the Avs are going to pull this off, and I could not believe that Dallas won, despite the fact that they were the better seeded team. Blackwell had a great goal, but that to me was a bit of a shocker. I thought the Avs were going to go up 2-0 in the series.
It comes back to that timing with Dallas because, look, the Nashville Predators beat them in the last game of the season, you all. That tells you that Dallas was not hitting their stride. They were not at peak performance going into the playoffs. So I was like, oh, Colorado's like, we got this, like knuckle crack, let's go. And so I was really surprised. Dallas needed that win, though, because I feel like Dallas is hanging on mentally just by a thread by the way they sort of skidded into the postseason. So Dallas had to get that. It'll be very interesting to see what happens when they end up in Colorado. A little Gabriel Landeskog potentially, like that could be a whole ball game.
That was such a tease last night, seeing him skate during warm-ups. Like,
warm-ups.
Rude. Jeez.
He's on the ice in pregame and then psych. He's not.
Literally.
Gamesmanship.
Yes.
Yeah, a little mental warfare.
That series, I think, probably has a little extra juice. I mean, you add the Mikko Rantanen and Matt Duchene aspects of it.
Yeah.
I am enjoying watching that series just because there's so many angles to it.
Yeah, all I can think is, well, we beat one of those teams the one time we were in the playoffs, so I don't know. I don't know that I have an opinion one way or another. Make it go 7. That's all.
There you go.
That is fair.
I was definitely surprised at being the one of the 2 West Coasters over here, getting to watch the LA and Edmonton game. How quickly LA pounced on the broken down Oilers team. But then the way the Oilers fought back was insane. Like, I think I switched to the Dallas and Avalanche game and I came back and the game was tied at 5-5. I was like, what just happened?
Insane.
But just an absolute back and forth game. And it's pretty interesting that the last 3 series between Edmonton and LA, Edmonton had home ice and now LA does. And they're already off to the hot start.
And Kyle,
can we all agree though that LA has the most annoyingly long goal horn?
It's
I don't
terrible.
no, I gotta disagree with you, and I'm sorry. I was gonna say Montreal, and I'm a Bruins fan saying this, so this shouldn't be a shocker. But the Canadians, go on, please. It makes me want to bleed. Like that, seriously. Like play that at high pitch. If a goal is scored, especially in a high pressure moment, oh my God, just bleed my ears out.
But the LA one goes on forever. Like, you will miss your childbearing years from start to finish if you are sitting there listening to the LA goal horn. And they scored 6 times. That was like 2.5 hours of your life you will never get back just listening to that goal horn.
And then they played at the end too.
Oh, too much.
And
Too much.
Gil, if I may, just real quick.
Go ahead.
And Kyle, I'm glad you brought that up in terms of the Edmonton LA game last week, because I have just one scorching takeaway from that game that made my blood boil, and me getting used to being up late nights doing Locked On NHL Game Night. Thanks to everyone at Locked On for the amazing opportunity. I'd like to see Chuck Knobloch rip this Oilers team a new one. Can we get more than Draisaitl and McDavid dragging this team back? Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be this person, but I'm going to be this person today. If you're the Oilers, you shouldn't feel good about the fact that you came back from 4-0 down to tie it. No. It literally took like Draisaitl to score that one goal to make it 4-1. And I'm like, okay, where the hell is Darnell Nurse? Where on earth is Evan Bouchard? Where is everyone else in this lineup? Nowhere to be found. So I don't think there's necessarily something to be proud of. It's something to be talked about maybe today, maybe tomorrow. Like, hey, everyone else, you have a role in this team. We like for you to like show up, please.
Anyone question some of the penalty calls in that third period? I mean, Edmonton had plenty of power play opportunities to get back into that game.
I feel like the officiating's been
questionable
all the time.
I think the refs are always biased towards Edmonton 100%. So again, that was on the Oilers essentially to take advantage of the opportunity that they have. But that's the one thing I think all NHL fans, maybe besides Edmonton fans, can agree on. Whenever you play the Oilers, it seems like the calls are a little bit steered in their direction.
Yeah.
Well, their rebuttal is, it's because McDavid's so fast.
No,
So that's like he's good at drawing on that.
Yeah, that's
and the rebuttal to that is like why every time someone breathed on Michael Jordan during his career there was a foul call. You know, the Stars are going to get the calls, unfortunately. or maybe fortunately. I mean, the Stars are going to get the calls more often than not.
Well, speaking of officiating, that Maple Leafs Ottawa game, that was rough to watch. There were so many like non-calls on the Senators, and then it was like the Senators would just like you said, breathe on Matthews wrong, and they're calling a penalty. And I literally tweeted out, I'm like, Matthews should just stay on his skates. Like, come on, dude. You're a professional player. You can skate better than that. You're getting barely touched and you're falling down trying to get that call. At least give us an embellishment.
But here's the thing, like what on that point, Kyle, it's like, can we at least let the officiating, let the players breathe a little bit, because we haven't had the Battle of Ontario for 20 years. Like, I mean, my goodness, like, I kind of want to see like Ty Domi smiling somewhere, like in this series, you know, like, you know, I want to see like, you know, Big Z, Zdeno Chara, like smiling somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, especially if you remember the early 2000s, but in this game one, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a fine line between officiating and over officiating. Let the players play. Let them play, please. That's all I'm asking for. Little blood here, you know?
All right. Well, we have got a lot more to discuss about the playoffs, so we'll have an in-depth discussion on some more aspects of it coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you could even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So, don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's FanDuel.com to claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Check it out at FanDuel.com. So, one thing I love about the playoffs, this year especially, you've got some great rivalries. We talked about Colorado, Dallas. We've got the Battle of Ontario. I still miss the Battle of Quebec, but it's been a while. You know, you've got the two Florida teams also going head-to-head. And then what, Edmonton and LA, the fourth sequel here?
Part 4.
Yeah. Which of these rivalries do you think makes for the best playoff matchup?
I think I'm kind of leaning towards. Sorry, Haley. I'm leaning towards the Florida series. I think one, because you know you've got the Panthers. People are watching that team. I think also, maybe also this is very biased, but you know we've got some folks from Seattle, formerly from Seattle, that went that way in the trade deadline. And then it's like, oh, look at the impact that these, you know, glue players or role players are having. And I'm like,
yeah.
Give them back.
I'm doing the Jimmy Dugan for our audio listeners.
I knew exactly what you were doing.
Like, can we get a functional team? You know, no, but not to make it all about Seattle. But I think that that's just a scrappy series in a lot of different ways. Yeah. You know, Florida coming in with just being banged up, you know, and not looking the way they want, I'm sure, to try and defend the title. And also, you get hockey in Florida. You know, I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
Haley?
Yeah, so anytime you have the Battle of Ontario, I know it's been quite a while, but it makes for great hockey. And I think the guys on Locked On Senators, they do such a great job posting about all the history between the two teams. And for me, I feel like hockey in Canada, now again, I cover the Blues. I'm a fan of the Blues, but playing a team that is a Canadian team within the Winnipeg Jets, there is a different atmosphere with Canadian hockey, and I think we can all agree on that. So when you have these two teams who have this long, deep-rooted history go against each other, it makes for some great hockey. And there's been some guys on another team that I cover that are on both of these teams right now. And of course, Craig Berube, former head coach of the Blues, not to make it all about the Blues, but with the team that's actually winning games in the playoffs. So it's good to see, and I'm enjoying it.
You're actually the team that is in the playoffs.
Exactly. Like,
what's that like?
Count your blessings, you know.
That's
like
it. We'll take it. We'll take it. Down 0-2 in the playoffs. I'll take it.
Oh, that sounds dreamy.
I know. If
Well,
only.
I like the Battle of Ontario with, like you said, the history behind it, and it's been a while. And also, it'll be nice to watch someone other than the Bruins beat the Maple Leafs in round one.
Wow.
Kyle,
That
you're
was-
3,000 miles away, sir.
I'm a Bruins fan as well. I have my bear up
Okay,
here.
I thought you were a Ducks fan. I'm sorry. I
I'm both.
assumed.
I'm both. I got my East Coast, my West Coast. I lived in Boston for a few. I was actually at the 2019 series against the
So
Blues.
was I. I was
so I
working
do
in
not
the-
like Jordan
I
I
Binnington.
was working in the building as part of the ball game, so I know.
Definitely not a fan.
Yeah.
Seven for the Blues and
Going and seeing Jordan Binnington's glove
Don't
in the
remind me,
Hockey
Haley.
Hall of Fame after that series.
Jeez, Lou, it makes me sick.
Bleh.
That guy.
Will the Maple Leafs ever get back? Forget winning. Will they even get to a Stanley Cup final again?
You know what's funny, Gil? True
At
story.
this pace.
A true story. I actually on the NHL Game Night show, I actually predicted my prediction for the Cup final for this year was Toronto Vegas, and I got a few eyebrows. I'm like, no, I listen. There's only one game between Ottawa and Toronto, but you can't tell me that there isn't a noticeable difference in terms of how they're playing defensively, and it showed up in game one. And for me, like, and I've been on this for weeks now, like what I've seen from Craig Berube in comparison to Sheldon Keefe, night and day. Night and day, because under Sheldon Keefe, this team was like a run and gun. We're going to try to outscore you. And I have said this repeatedly for years. Even when they played the Bruins in the playoffs, this is how you lose playoff series, trying to outscore the teams. It's a different brand of hockey.
Crazy.
And now with Berube, who unfortunately has won a Stanley Cup as a coach of the Blues in 19.
Whoa!
Sorry, Haley.
Little full circle moment.
Like, unfortunately, he's bringing that same structure that he had with the Blues. They had a number one defenseman like Alex Pietrangelo that year. He's doing it now with this Toronto Maple Leafs team. You're seeing a similar result, but again, only one game. But you can see the noticeable difference.
That one game was a big difference because you go into that and you think of the way those two teams play. Like I think of Toronto as pretty. That's pretty hockey.
Yes.
Ottawa,
Pretty
they're gonna beat you up on the playground. But Toronto matched that. And I was like, okay, this makes it interesting for me because Toronto didn't just come out and say, we're gonna out offense you. They came out and said, we're going to meet you physicality as well. And I think that's something Toronto has to do if they want to get out of the first round.
And I think they're built to do it finally this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to add on to what Ann said. I mean, it's a great point because with a team like Ottawa, I think, there's certain teams, right? And Ottawa is definitely one of them that how they're going to play, they're going to try and bully ball you. And if you can do that, if you can match that energy and you're a better skilled team offensively, then that's all you really need to do. It's like buck up, get in the ice bath after the game and get after it. And I agree with you. That's the kind of hockey that I love. I also was not going to let an opportunity to talk about like how great teams play. I don't know, this thing called defense. I'm not going to let that pass by. That is a direct shot at Locked On Sharks. You know why.
Hey, but Erica, you left off before the game starts. You got to put on the foil.
That's it. I mean, let's go. Get after it. Do you want to advance or not? Like, it's really that simple, because we got guys playing golf, waiting for their new head coach, not to make it all about the Kraken, but,
Or almost
just
any
real
of our
quick-
teams.
Right.
Just real quick on the
Any
Leafs
of them.
Senators, like in terms of defense, so there is a player that I thought that really stood out to me in game one, and that was Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I mean, my goodness. Like you talk about sometimes less is more, and for when that Oliver Ekman-Larsson, he won the Stanley Cup last year with the Florida Panthers. He averaged around, let's say, roughly 17, 18 minutes. Most defensemen in the playoffs are averaging, especially like top four defensemen, they're all averaging 25 minutes per night. But Oliver Ekman-Larsson, in his case, I thought that the Leafs found that perfect sweet spot that's going to keep him fresh and keep him effective should they go on a prolonged stretch run. And I think that for him and the type of hockey that he brings forth and having the Kraken having won the Stanley Cup is going to be huge. But having him play those 18 minutes, I think it's the perfect sweet spot in terms of effectiveness and as well as getting the most out of him as well.
Yeah. Something that stuck out to me too with that game one is how many times in the postseason is the conversation, where are the core four? Where's Matthews? Where's Marner? Where's Tavares? All four of them were on the score sheet that game. They all showed up. They all had offensive prowess in that game, and they displayed it. And that's where I think that was kind of my moment. And this might be a totally different outcome, but it's hard to, root for the Leafs.
Toronto turning a new leaf. Love to see it, or not. Either way,
Or not. Yeah.
or not.
Also
Belief
fun to
or
watch.
disbelief?
At least it's entertaining one way or the other. It's some great hockey to watch. Look, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the non-playoff teams since many of us are covering those teams. So, we'll get to that and more coming up on the Squad Show. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, we got to address the coaching carousel and the plight of some of these teams that did not make the playoffs. Erica, I'm going to start with you. Were you surprised at the firing after one season of a coach by the Kraken?
Yes and no. I think if you take the performance for what it is, singularly without some of the other things that have been happening, second worst season in Kraken history. We've only got 4 seasons, so that's not great. That's not great, Disco Dan. And I have been saying for a while, Gil, I know you know this when I join you on the Monday show, but for me, the ails, the big issues with the Seattle Kraken were because of decisions that the front office was, or quite honestly, was not making. And I think you put Dan Bilesma in a really tough spot. I also think now, I got to look back at some of the things that were happening, because how is this a team that I already alluded to? We get rid of Oliver Bjorkstrand, Yanni Gourde, Brandon Tanev at the trade deadline, and then we perform better. So what was happening? What was going on? Was it those guys? We had a lot of guys that were, given a reset, aka were healthy scratches. So there just seemed to be a lot going on. Last thing I'll say is also Ron Francis. Again, I've been pointing to Ron Francis in the front office, maybe not to let them go, but definitely to hold more accountability for what is not going right with the team. And the guy gets a promotion. So now he's president, which I guess is the organization's way of kind of getting him away, perhaps, from the operations. But now you have Jason Botterill, who's promoted to general manager, and some other VP of something. And then now you're going to have a new head coach. And this is a team that is still telling us, an ownership team that's still telling us that they're shooting for the playoffs. This is not about a retool, a rebuild, a hybrid, anything. They want to be competitive by next year. I'm just trying to understand how you do that when you've got now a third coach in less than 5 seasons that you have to hire.
It's to sell tickets. That's how you
The Sonics are coming. The Sonics are coming.
Who do you guys think are some of the top coaching candidates out there to fill these voids?
That's tough.
Maybe Jared Gallant. I mean, he's got to be out there. I mean,
John Tortorella.
Listen, at this point, this should be a sign that says Tortorella. Unless if you're rebuilding, stay away from Torts. Please.
Don't touch
So
it.
Like, I mean, with all the respect to the Flyers,
right?
like I've heard too many. Listen, I've heard too many stories, and also being currently locally located in Philly. like I've heard and read too many stories this season about, players who are either unhappy with certain healthy scratches or benchings and so forth. And you're trying to build with a young core like the Flyers, for example. And I just felt like that situation kind of left a bad taste in my mouth in terms of how I perceive him, in terms of any other coach opportunity that may pop up around the league in terms of Torts. I mean, I don't know, but I know Haley, you cover the team, have covered them for 97.5 The Fanatic. So I like to hear your thought on it as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I cover the team for the Metro Philly. And the one thing I will say, being around Tortorella, he's great when it comes to animals. And I know that sounds like a little silly, but he is actually a nice human being overall. He gets a bad rep, but I'm not going to say who, but I've had players' parents reach out to me and say to me, what is going on? Tortorella has compared players to toilet water, which is very unprofessional. It is true. Players that are no longer on this team, one of them was compared to toilet water. We also have a situation where we have a Matvei Michkov who did say that Tortorella was one of the best coaches he has ever had. And I think that maybe for
but
Michkov,
he's 12. He's had like 3 coaches.
But because Michkov is just such a serious and locked in, and he means just only business type of player, he works well under a Tortorella kind of atmosphere. But then for some of these other guys that are trying to develop, you notice that they're not truly developing. Like a Tyson Forster hasn't played that great, a Bobby Brink, because Tortorella as a head coach, it's not geared to help these younger guys succeed. And then not for nothing, but when you healthy scratch your captain, despite what people might say about Sean Couturier, only a week after he was named captain, which, by the way, Tortorella told me that he was not going to name any captains. That was a lie. Yeah, true story. Literally the day before. Healthy scratches him, doesn't tell him why, and then gets upset that Couturier told us in the media, I don't know, instead of lying and saying, well, it's because of this and that, is unacceptable. He scratched Matvei Michkov this season, Forster, Morgan Frost, who got a really tough, it was really tough for Morgan Frost. I can tell you that. Like, he was not happy at all. So the Flyers, they need to get a coach. Honestly, it could be anybody. And I'm not even like trying to be funny when I say that. Honestly, I like talk it. But I think that this team just needs a coach that's going to let these guys breathe, be a little bit more free. Because when you have somebody that's essentially, and I'm not trying to call him this, but essentially a bully in the locker room. And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm meaning that for how it is. I mean, you compared a player to toilet water. You yell at guys for not coming to your office, but then you don't let them talk to you. That's not helping. And Danny Briere, and I like Danny. I've talked to Danny one-on-one. But as the general manager of a team, if you're noticing this type of behavior from your head coach, that's when you step in and you say something. Because this whole entire season could have gone a completely different direction if it wasn't for Tortorella being in control. Because under Brad Shaw, and Shaw even said it, the team felt more free. They felt more comfortable. And that's why you saw them winning these games.
So you're saying he's not coming to Seattle?
Or Nashville.
Or Anaheim.
Well, here's the
I
thing.
was hoping to go to Anaheim just for the drama of it. I'm
Oh
sorry,
my
Kyle.
gosh.
Oh,
The Cutter Gauthier drama.
Here's the problem, though. If John Tortorella is unwilling to coach a rebuilding team, it's the Groucho Marx things. He wouldn't join a club that would have him as a member. If you need a new coach, you're a rebuilding team 9 times out of 10. So if you're not willing to coach a rebuilding team, who's hiring you?
Hey, he could go to the Rangers.
Oh, gosh.
No.
Recap 2.0.
Ooh, I know. But I think that at some point too, for head coaches, and I know that this is an era where we're having some younger guys coach, which is awesome. Sometimes it's okay to walk away from the game too. If you're not willing to help these developing teams,
And
maybe
that's it.
just call it a day, focus on the animals and hang it up.
He was
Hang
a great
toilet water.
analyst.
Don't
I
forget the
thought
toilet
Torts
water.
was great when he was doing, on TV and doing that. Like, go do that, but don't like Nashville still has a head coach in Andrew Brunette, but literally all of the fan base is like, come on, fire him, fire him, fire him, fire him, fire him. And everybody is so desperate for a guy with a heartbeat. Like, they don't care anybody but Bruno who's got a heartbeat. And they've talked about Torts, and I'm like, no, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. Like, don't, like, just because it's a different person doesn't mean it's the right person. And it's that Mr. Right now. So yeah, no, thank you. And who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe Andrew Burnett will still be here next year.
And it's the
What's
same
damn
question
coach?
that the Bruins have as well in terms of who is going to be their next head coach. And even as a Bruins fan, I do wonder about like just some of the candidates. I would say no to Tortorella, even though the team says they're in a retooling phase right now. But I'm gonna be honest, they really need to rebuild. But that's neither here or there. I don't trust Tortorella. I don't trust Laviolette for this group right now. I just have questions, especially including on maybe Gerard Gallant, maybe just maybe. But right now, I just have question marks in terms of like where these head coaches are going to land next, especially considering
Yeah.
that the head coaching like carousel around the league. But I am curious about about the Seattle situation in terms of like what is going to be next up there, because I feel like this was a mistake that the
Yes.
Kraken made, and they're trying
Correct.
to cover it up.
Exactly.
And it doesn't help matters that, again, like I'm a firm believer that you need to have a stable head coach that is going to help develop the young guys like Shane Wright and Matty
Seguro.
Beniers, and
Claro que
like you
sí.
don't have that, right? Yes.
Like, I mean, yes to all of those things. And that's why I'm like laughing at people that were like, oh, bring Laviolette. I'm like, oh, so the guy that Capo had beef with, we're going to cool. Tight. Love that for us. Okay, no,
Bad
do not
idea.
do that. And that's the problem in Seattle. I mean, Gil, you alluded to it. I do think that there's this pressure that the Seattle Kraken are feeling, knowing that this is likely going to be the same ownership group that bids for the Sonics to come back. But again, they protected Ron through this whole thing. Ron made it clear when some reports were coming out mid-season, this is my guy. So now you've got two of your guys that you've had to fire. You had to give them the axe. Something has to give. And the Seattle Kraken, for me, doesn't seem to agree from ownership, front office, and then at the time, at the coaching level, on if they're rebuilding, if they're retooling, if they're leading into the future of their prospects, or if they're going after it in the here and now. Those are very different things. And to ask a coach now to step into that yet again, where the vision isn't clear, that's tough. I mean, also, you put Philip Grubauer on waivers. That was a move that I would assume the front office had to agree with and okay. But then you bring him back and he doesn't get any action when his whole thing was, I need reps. You want me to perform well, then you have to give me a shot, like give me reps. I mean, what goaltender doesn't say that? So, okay, Philip, you tried it. I mean, on the one hand, you can look at it that way, but on the other, what is going on? That to me is a very specific example of who's kind of running the ship, right? What's going on? What's most important for this Seattle team? And I don't think this organization has answers right now. As we speak, we're going to get ready to hear from now the new president and the new GM soon, but they have a lot of questions that they need to answer, and they have more things that they need to do than can get done in an off season.
Is there a navigator who's guiding this team in a particular direction? Anyway,
that's the question.
Yeah. We are out of time. I want to thank Erica L Ayala and Kimmel, Shukri Wrights, Kyler Carr, and Haley Taylor Simon for joining me today. We will be back next week with another exciting episode of the Locked On NHL Squad Show. Have a great week, everybody, and thanks for watching.